Welcome back to beginningdeveloper.com. This is Vincent. Today we're going to be going over what an IDE is, why an IDE is important to software developers, and lastly, we're going to go ahead and install a simple IDE and go over some basic features that makes an IDE powerful. But first, let's go ahead and define what an IDE is. It is an acronym, and it stands for Integrated Development Environment. Now, the key word environment is what I want to focus on, because you could actually write code in a simple text editor like Notepad. You could write a simple HTML app, you can run it, and it would work. But an IDE is an environment. It is a much larger application than just simple text editing. It has a compiler built into it, an interpreter, automation tools, a debugger. Most modern day IDEs have a marketplace of some kind that allow you to add on even more stuff that's more singular to the task at hand. It could be for styling, it could be for task management, the list goes on. It's a very powerful utility that allows a developer to create software, and it's designed to make your job and your life much easier by providing you with tools and utilities to do better at software development. So let's go ahead and go into some of the more popular ones that are currently in the industry. We have Visual Studio, which is used for C#, C++, and Visual Basic. That's made by Microsoft. It is a paid application, but they do have a free application as well that you can download. I use it, and it is a little bit more advanced, but there are plenty of tutorials out on the web, and there are so many articles about it because it is a very powerful utility. The next thing, which is Eclipse. Eclipse is an amazing application. It is free to use. I've been using it for several years now for Java development, but Eclipse has support for multiple different languages, from Java, C++ to C#, Visual Basic, PHP, the list goes on. And you can use this IDE to do a lot. We also have like NetBeans. That's actually what I started off on with my Java career, and I love it. It's very simple, easy to use. A lot of shops use it. Overall, it's an amazing application. There are so many different IDEs out there that I would definitely recommend whichever one you end up using. Look into keyboard shortcuts. Look into add-ons that you can do. Look at styling your code editor so that way it looks a little bit better and helps you. Learn it, because when you learn the tools that you have, you can do your job better. And you can save a lot of time not doing manual processes and rely heavily on your IDE. So I definitely recommend whatever IDE you decide to go with, learn more about it. Just simple keyboard shortcuts can save you lots of times. If you have a request for a particular IDE you'd like me to do a review on, whether it's any of the ones I mentioned or a different one, I would love to. If it's something that I haven't used, then I will get to learn along with you. If it is something I can use, I would love to try to teach you something that I know that maybe can make your job and your developing career easier. So go ahead and leave that request down at the bottom and let me know what you would like me to do a video on. But for now, we're actually going to go ahead and start an install of an IDE and walk through a little bit of it. Alright, I've already downloaded the Eclipse installer, which the link for that will be in the description below if you'd like to follow along. As I stated before, Eclipse is a very robust IDE. It has support for multiple different types of languages, all the ones you see here. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and select the Java Developers IDE. I'm going to select all the standard options and start the installation. I'm actually pretty excited about using the new Eclipse, which is Neon. I've been using an older version of Eclipse, and this is an opportunity for me to upgrade to the newer version and play around with some of the new features, as well as go over some of the ones that are carried over for all of the different versions. The installation is pretty quick, so I'm going to go ahead and launch that, and it shows me what version I'm currently running, which is Eclipse Neon. The next thing that's going to be popped up is going to be the workspace. So what a workspace is just a folder that has all of your projects in there. It's a little bit more advanced than that, but for the sake of this tutorial, let's go ahead and just call it a place that's going to house all of your future applications, and you can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to take the defaults and hit OK. And now it's going to scan that and build the folder structure and load any applications. But since I don't have anything built in there yet, it's just going to load up an empty screen. So before we jump too much into all these features, I'm going to go ahead and create a basic Java project for us. So that way we can go over each one of these features together. go ahead and take the standard defaults again. All right, cool. IDEs are pretty advanced if you make them, but that should not be a deterrent to learn them. Some of the young developers that I have spoken with had said that they only use this IDE because they're used to it. That's actually pretty bad because the industry standards for IDEs change all the time. And if you get a job at one place or another, they may require you to use just this IDE. And if it's not the one you're comfortable with, you kind of don't know how to do your job. But the good news is that when you learn an IDE really well, a lot of things do translate over from one to another. They look different, they're laid out differently, and it can be kind of scary. But just for right now, I want you to keep an open mind because a lot of the features I'm about to go over are in all IDEs, and that's the ones I want to focus on right now. So in Eclipse, we have on the left, which is I want to go over first, is the Explorer. Now, the Explorer is just a high overview of what your project is, what it entails. For instance, right now I have my new project that I just created, and it's in a tree structure. So I'm going to go ahead and expand it, and I see two things, my source and my system library. Now, this is not a Java tutorial, so I'm not going to go into what these are. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and create a new package called a new package. Really creative, I know. And a new class. I wonder if you can guess what I'm going to call it. New class. And I'm going to select the main method. And then I'm going to hit finished. So as you can see over there on the left, it still says Package Explorer, but now it actually shows everything that I just created. My new package, my new class, it's expanded out. So this translates to every single IDE. Every IDE will have an Explorer exactly like this. Now it may look slightly different, but it'll act the exact same way because every developer needs to be able to see all of the packages, the classes, the code, the resources, your tests, everything like that from a very high-end perspective. And that's what the Explorer window is there for. You will probably be very familiar with it because it imitates just like every other file explorer and most operating systems, Windows, Linux, and Mac. So it's nothing new, but we're going to go ahead and stick with just the standard Package Explorer for this tutorial. The next thing I want to draw your attention to is what popped up over here, which is the central stage. What the central stage is that's your text editor. Notice how I said before you could write in Notepad. That is true, but Notepad does not indent like this. It does not add curly braces whenever you want to create one. It does not color code things. If your Notepad does that, I'm pretty impressed because I don't know a lot of notepads that do. Notepad++ does, which is another utility I'm going to have a tutorial on later on that is a pretty awesome tool to have in your arsenal. But let's just go ahead and see some of the features that I love about it. For instance, we need to print out a simple hello world, right? So I'm going to do system dot, and then what is this? Oh, this is your recommendations. It's like I noticed you said system. These are all the different packages that are inside system. These are all different methods. These are all the different things that you can do with system. Well, I already know what I want. So I want the system.out.println, and I'm just going to go ahead and say hello, Vincent, and save it. So as you can see, it indented for me. There was lots of really cool things that it can do. One of the really cool things is you're going to be using printout statements if you work in Java frequently. You may not keep them in there very long. You may use some logging messages, but whatever you may use. I use printout statements quite often for just basic stuff. And one of the cool keyboard shortcuts that is built into Eclipse is if you type in sys out and then hit Control space. It actually autofills it in for you. They do that. That is a specific keyboard for this exact thing because that is how frequently used it is. Just a cool little trick. These are just some cool stuff that I know because I work in it on a daily basis. And the more you use your IDE, I'm sure you're going to have keyboard shortcuts that you can customize, that you have memorized, that you use on a daily basis. The next thing I want to show you is down at the bottom. Now, this portion of an IDE is always in a different location with every IDE, which is fine, but it usually follows the same layout. These are tools, indicators. There's so many different things, but these are the plugins, the add-ons that are used by the IDE to aid the developer when creating software. The three that are displayed right now are problems, Java documentation, and declaration. Again, I'm not going to go into these specifically, but what I am kind of surprised that I don't see is the next thing I want to talk about, which is one of the most important features of an IDE, and that is the console. So let's go ahead and display that real fast. And show view, and then console. Here it is. If the stage up here at the top is your input, your console is your output. It is a way for the IDE to speak to the developer. And in some cases, for the developer to speak to themselves. What I mean by that is for instance, if I want to display a message, hello Vincent, this is where it's going to display. If I want to see my errors, this is where it's going to display. If I have log messages, that's where it's going to display. My build output, that's where it's going to display. So the console is an amazing place, and that's where you're going to spend a lot of your time. I'm always reminded of like older movies like Hackers and Swordfish, and they're sitting there looking at like lines and lines of code. And I feel like a lot of people look at software developers, and that's their job, is just look at matrix-like code. It's not entirely wrong, because we will look at this console, and sometimes it will. I know what it is. You know what it is. You will know what it is if you don't already. And it looks normal to us. You know, we can read it, but to other people, I can see how it can be matrix-like code. But for right now, let's go ahead and compile our code and see exactly what this is. So I'm going to go ahead and run as a Java application. And down at the bottom of my console, it's printing out exactly what I thought it would, which is hello Vincent. Everything else you see here, these buttons up at the top, these panels over here, I don't really want to focus on them because this is not an Eclipse tutorial. I want to basically focus on what an IDE is. When you create software, this tool is your best friend. Get to know it. Do not be scared of it. Be excited to use a new IDE. Be excited to use a new version of the IDE that you're currently using. Think of this as a Cliff Notes, a cheat sheet, a helper. This application, and I say this loosely, not as in Eclipse, but I say this as in IDEs, are going to make your life easier. And the more that you know about it, the better software you will write, the faster you will write it, and overall be a better software developer. One of my favorite things that I heard from someone a long time ago was, a developer that knows his tools is a stronger developer. This is a powerful tool. So the more time you invest in it, the more you will get out of it. So just a brief overview, we have our basic Explorer, which goes over a high-end tree structure of all of our items, as far as packages, libraries to test cases. We have our main stage, which is where we're going to write all our code, where we will see all of our different classes. As far as in Java, we can see our spreadsheets, we can do style sheets, you can see everything in there. And then down at the bottom is a lot of our like add-ons, and our console is one of them. If you would like me to go over a specific IDE and go in depth, whether it's Eclipse or if it's Visual Studio or if it's one that I haven't even used, we can learn together. I would love to do that. Please leave a comment below with your recommendation as far as a video that you'd like me to make, and I will definitely do it, because I love trying out new IDEs, because I will most likely run into it if it is popular, and if it's not, maybe it's better than what I'm currently using, and I may use it from now on. So that's pretty much what I have right now for IDEs. Go out and explore. If you're currently using one, I guarantee you don't know everything about it, and I challenge you to try to. So that's it for today, and I look forward to making another tutorial for you later.